Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A-Side. I'm your host, Riley. For the first new album review of 2023, I have a review of the brand new album by New Found Glory called Make the Most of It. New Found Glory is a pop-punk band from Jacksonville, Florida that has been consistently putting out very quality albums since the late 90s. Seriously, if you've seen my video where I ranked all their albums, I don't think they've ever made a bad album. In my opinion, their third album, Sticks and Stones, is like the best pop punk album of like that late 90s early 2000s era, from like pretty much from like a Dookie to right before Blink-182's self-titled album is the era I'm talking about, because the self-titled album was so different, and then you got American Idiot, which was so different, and then all the kind of fueled by ramen core bands to come out afterward. And while I don't think they've ever matched that masterpiece, their releases since have all been good, and Make the Most of It is no exception. But before I get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later if you want. One thing to note too is in 2022 I didn't do a lot of new album reviews of like albums that dropped, just like listen to them and then talk about them. I'm gonna try and do that more this year. Anyway, one thing I will commend the band for right off the bat on Make the Most of It is their experimentation here in the sound. This is New Found Glory's acoustic album. Every song is on acoustic guitar, with the occasional inclusion of piano or strings. This is the most NFG has ever shaken their sound up, and it's cool that they're doing this 20 plus years into their career. The album really does sound great. The acoustic guitars give it this really warm feel, like a heated blanket for your ears. And the themes of this album are very uplifting. Jordan may be the one singing, but it's clearly Chad's voice doing all the talking. This record is pretty much his response to his life-threatening bout with cancer and the following surgery he had to go through. It's about how he, in the wake of that, he now is thankful and grateful for every day that he wakes up. The entire album is so positive as it focuses on the positive things in life and the positive things in Chad's life. And it focuses on this idea that, life is what you make it, and you got to see the beauty in things. I see Make the Most of It as Chad and the band's celebration of life and living each day to its fullest. It's a kind of weirdly structured album. There are kind of two parts to it, and the first part is rather short. It starts with the lead single Dream Born Again. It's the first song on the album, and it's about how he had given up on love and the idea of that happily ever after with someone until he met his wife. And now she was that dream being revived and changed his whole perspective on love. It was the dream born again, those two. The fact that he could actually get to it, and I think it's really sweet. It's a really sweet song, but it does go on for a little too long, in my opinion. It's 4.5 minutes, and by the 3-minute mark, I'm like, okay, I get it. Get on with it. I think Jordan puts a lot of passion to his voice in this song, and it's very effective. I also like when the other band members jump in and they harmonize. It's cool. The more I listen to this song, the more it actually reminds me of the first Dashboard Confessional album, The Things You've Come to Fear the Most, which is cool. The kind of acoustic guitar way it like goes about, and some of the melodies, like the I won't give in, I won't give up, which was totally out of key there, but you know what I mean. I feel like Mouth to Mouth, thematically, the next song on the album, does pretty much the same thing as Dream Born Again, just without any of the flowery sweetness that made Dream of Born Again charming. As a result, I think Mouth to Mouth is the least interesting moment on the album. However, the next track, Get Me Home, is an awesome song. It's about Chad's bout with cancer and how he felt before the surgery. It talks about how he never lost that hope, and he put his trust in the surgeon because he had to. He couldn't give up, and he needed to survive. And he talks of how he needed to get home to give his wife a kiss and help his friends out of dark places, and that he has a band to play with and fans to play for. It's a really powerful song. And the moment that hit me the hardest is when Chad talks about how he needs to get home for his younger daughter. He mentions how her first steps and her first words are right around the corner, and that he just can't miss them. The song really portrays the indomitable human spirit, in my opinion. Even in the face of sickness and death, we can persevere. In a similar fashion to the part that hit me really hard about Get Me Home is on Watch the Lilies, the next song. Watch the Lilies Grow is a beautiful song about Chad watching his daughter grow up. At her birth, he says his life took on a whole new meaning. Actually, the direct quote is, "All I've accomplished in my life now feels meaningless compared to you." His daughter is now the most important thing in his life. In a really heartbreaking moment, he details how if he lost his fight with cancer, he would still look over her and watch her grow from heaven, which is this beautiful sentiment of love and that familial bond and that kind of love that like a parent feels. Which is interesting. Structure wise, the song More Than Enough is the best song on the album, like structure and like enjoyment. I like the guitar riff a lot, and when the dynamics go up before the chorus, they harmonize, making a nice little moment. And I think the chorus is also kind of the catchiest and most upbeat on the record. That's one of my problems with the record as a whole, though. I've been super positive so far because I love the sound and I love the lyrical content, but the songs themselves, with exception, aren't super interesting or dynamic or like composed in a crazy way. It's just kind of like acoustic guitar music. It's not anything wild, and I'll get to that in a little bit. When I saw New Found Glory in 2022 on the Sticks and Stones anniversary tour, where they played it in its entirety, Sticks and Stones, one of my favorite records of all time, so I loved that. It was an amazing show. I actually bought the 20th anniversary vinyl, because the vinyl's so hard to get on the green. I showed it off in my all-time low video. But Chad gave the speech about his experience with cancer, and he told us about, how we need to live in the moment and appreciate every moment and live every day to its fullest, because we don't know when it could be our last. And Kiss the Floor is pretty much that speech in song form, more or less, as he talks about how every day he wakes up, it's a blessing, and that he takes the time to appreciate things as simple as breathing. He says he breathes in deeper than he ever has before, and he kisses the floor because he's just so happy to be here. It's a very uplifting song. Despite this, though, the song is pretty hard to get through because it really doesn't do much musically. It stays very one note and is easily the least interesting of the songs from this record. I'm also not a really big fan of the song Bloom. Using flowers and flowers blooming as like a metaphor for personal growth and change is like so overdone and uninteresting in my opinion. It's been done 1,000 times. It's been done. Chad's ex-wife did it, Hayley Williams, on her solo album when she did Watch Me As I Bloom. I mean, it's been done 1,000,000 times, and it's just not quite as interesting. And that's the first half of the record. These kind of new acoustic studio songs that are really I really like. I love the messaging, I love the themes, I love how uplifting and celebratory it is. And I think it has that nice, warm acoustic guitar sound, but like I said, the songs don't do that much really outside of that. There aren't many melodies or choruses that are super memorable. There's no moments in the songs where you're like, wow, oh my god, this part blew me away, or like parts you really remember. So yeah, while there's some really solid stuff going on, I don't know if they necessarily played into it as much as they could have. I think they could have done a lot more. And then the second half of this album is made up of live acoustic versions of past songs from Self-Titled, Sticks and Stones, and Catalyst, and they're neat. They're a great treat for the fans, but nothing I would ever come back to that often. However, I do really like the inclusion of The Story So Far, the closing track from Sticks and Stones, and the name of the band. The Story So Far got their name from the song's name. It's one of my favorite New Found Glory songs, and the guitar part that follows the chorus, the sounds really good on acoustic guitar. It gives it it really brings out that like kind of sad, reflective feeling, but kind of paints it in like a different light. It just really fits on the acoustics. On the other hand, they do an acoustic version of Failure's Not Flattering. And to me, my favorite part of Failure's Not Flattering is the synths. That's what makes that song so cool. And without them, I just don't think the acoustic version is nearly as interesting. Like I said, while I appreciate a lot of its positive messages and the way it celebrates life, as well as the warm acoustic sound, the songs just aren't always here. They aren't particularly interesting structurally. Just a lot of it is standard guitar music without much variation. I think a lot of the choruses are pretty lacking, and so are a lot of the melodies. Not bad by any means, but the album is often not super engaging outside of its lyrical content. And while cool, those live tracks add while cool, those live tracks really do add like a very heavy weight on the back half of the record. Um, and I'm considering the record as a whole here. So you have the first half of new songs, but then a whole second half of the record where, yeah, it's cool and it's a nice little thing for fans. I would much rather just go listen to the original song. Um, so I think that really weighs down the back half of the record and really weighs down its score too. As a result, it's not an album I see myself coming back to very often, but one I still really did enjoy and feel positively about, and a very decent way to start the year off. I'm feeling like a 6 out of 10 on Make the Most of It, which I think is a fair score. Like I said, didn't absolutely blow me away, but I had a good time with it. And I really like some of the stuff it was doing. I just don't think it did enough. And I know that's not really what it was trying to do. It's their like celebration, and Chad is celebrating that he's alive, and that's great. I love this band. You can go watch my ranked video that I did a year or two maybe now ago. So yeah, what do you think of Make the Most of It? Are you a Newfound Glory fan? Where would you put this in their discography? Is it? I enjoyed it. I think more than Forever and Ever X Infinity. That would probably set around a 6 out of 10 for me too. But I like this one a little more because I think the experimentation is cool. This is the most they've ever shaken up their sound. So yeah, let me know what you think of this record, and I'll see you all next time.